Good evening. I'll now call the City of Cannon Falls City Council meeting for Tuesday, September the 3rd to order. Roll call.
Councilmember Duncan,
Here.
Holst,
Here.
Johnson,
Here.
Mattson,
Here.
McCusker,
Yes.
Schoblum,
Here.
and Mayor Robinson.
Yep. All please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the City Council meeting. I thought fall was getting here, but I think summer's coming back. At this time, Chair will take a motion to approve the agenda as submitted.
So moved.
I'll second.
Motion by Merle, second by Bill. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Brings us to item 5 this evening, public input. Citizens may speak to issues not on the agenda. Before speaking, please give your name and address for the minutes. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Come on up, Rose.
Rosie Schluter, 55th Avenue Way, beautiful rural Stanton Township. Some friends were telling me they had been watching the meeting last time, and you were talking about the farmer's market. And they said something that brought up a concern to me, because many years ago, some of us got together and got the farmer's market going. Really excited about it. It was supposed to be homegrown and homemade, that type of thing. It was an opportunity for local people just to share the produce that they had that was extra, things like that. What concerned me was that Aaron brought up the idea that, well, this didn't concern me. I thought it was good for them to informally organize. That's always kind of nice. But what concerned me was the possibility of licensing or fees. And if there comes to the position that you need to have that, you can probably explain to me and then I'll fuss about it. But it's nice just to have the opportunity, if you have extra green beans or something, to go down there, not worry about the other legal things. So if you get to that point, I'd like to be made aware of it. And I'm not connected with the farmer's market now. I just think it's really cool, and it's really such a community thing. And originally, we had Gene Abram was with the, what was it called? Value.
Super Value.
Super Value, thanks. And we had artists design the sign. It was a triangular sign, you know, and Gene would send employees over to pick it up, store it all week. And I said, Gene, why are you doing this? Because we're selling vegetables and that's taking away from you. And he said, no, you sell your vegetables, then all of you come over and you buy everything else at Super Value. And so it really is a working thing, so I think it's kind of neat. Thanks.
Thanks, Rosie. Anybody got any other comments? If not, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Items on this area of the agenda may be adopted or they may be removed and placed on the business area of the agenda for discussion purposes before approving. For the folks at home, I'll read the consent agenda. Item A is the just and correct claims for the accounting period ending August the 29th, 2013. Item B, the meeting minutes for the August 20th, 2013 City Council meeting. Item C, St. Pius street closing request. Item D, Resolution 2034, accepting a monetary donation for the fire department. Item E, Resolution 2035, adopting the preliminary tax levy and budget collectible in 2014 and setting public input meeting date. Item F, Resolution 2036, establishing procedures relating to compliance with reimbursement bond regulations under the Internal Revenue Code. Item G, approval of the land reclamation permit for Hinch's property. Item H, sewer credit policy update. Are there any items anybody wishes to bring down?
H.
All right, we'll bring H down. That will be going under Area 7, which will become council business. Reports will move to item 8 and adjournment item 9. That'll be item 8A. Okay, at this time, the chair will take a motion to approve the consent agenda minus item H, the sewer credit policy update.
So moved.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Merle, second by Bill. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. So we'll move on to item 8A, which will be the sewer credit policy update.
One of the citizens called me about this deal, and so I kind of got involved in it the last couple days. So I had a meeting, quite a long meeting with Aaron about this situation. And after we talked about it, I have more concerns about some of our water hookups that we have and the way they're situated. That I was telling Aaron, I ain't so sure we don't have to come up with some kind of different setup for our private water hookups and sewer hookups, where we just sell to the units, and we've got like 2 of them in town. And there's also a water issue in there that you just can't have a major leak and let it go for 4 months and not get it addressed. We have to deal with that issue besides the sewer issue. So I guess, Aaron, my question for you is this something that should be looked at together, or is it okay to just go ahead with this for now, but we do need to deal with that other situation?
Yeah, I think while they're generally related, I mean, it is something where with a lot of policies, we either don't have them or we don't update them until something changes and we need to. So in this situation, the policy we've had has been fine, but when you start running into something where it was never intended as a repeat situation to allow, in this case, a situation where you have basically lines that need to be upgraded, and instead of upgrading them, going through this every 6 months of crediting for a new leak, that was never the intent. The intent was very basically that if somebody in their home has like a leak in the basement, goes down the sump hole, we can address that. No big deal. It usually doesn't happen on a regular basis at that individual place. Or if it's a business, generally speaking, they fix it right away because they don't want to be having a leak and paying all that extra money for it. So we came up with a little different situation here, but it does raise the question that this is not, the intent of the policy is not to address long-term issues. It's to address those accidents that happen. Give the credit, it's fixed, you move on, you don't worry about it again. So that's why we're doing the policy update, is to address the fact that this is not meant to be something that's reused often. Now, our other situation where we have, technically what are, private lines that, need to be repaired and things, like I said, we don't have many of those. I mean, for the most part, we own all the mains in town, and everybody else, and all the property owners are responsible for the service lines off those mains. Now, in certain situations, there's a lot of service lines in a private area, and like in this, we're running into problems. We do need to take a look at that and try to address it, but it's not something that we can really address in a policy as much as, if in the future we get a development that would call for something like that, it would go in differently. As with most cases, things are old. And when they went in back then, that was the way it was done. Now, say if we get any sort of development, no matter what type of housing it is, we're going to have the mains installed, we're going to own the mains, then the service lines will be installed, and that'll be the property owner's responsibility. We won't come up with these situations where we have all these lines running around with problems, they're 50 years old, and they're not ours. And so, which obviously makes it difficult for us to fix because they're not ours to fix. So I think what we're dealing with now is, one, the policy update's fine, it'll address any of these situations that might come up in the future, but the other side of it is that we need to deal with the situations that we have, and then moving forward, we need to remember, let's not make those decisions again where we allow private lines, things like that. So I definitely think they're separate, and we should adopt this, and then we'll deal with the other one. The situation we currently have now will be coming up in October. As far as we know, they're coming. The property owners are going to be coming to Public Works Commission in October, and then after that, the Public Works Commission will have a recommendation to the council, and then we'll have a discussion on here's where we're at, here's what we're doing, and then we can decide on that. But that's definitely a very unique situation compared to what this would address. So.
The other question I got, Aaron, is when you read this over under procedure, number 6 there, only one credit for a previous billing cycle will be issued per property every 5 years. So are we saying then that this particular situation we got now, that nothing can be credited for 5 years?
You're right. If we do a credit now, then it couldn't happen again for 5 years.
And I guess the problem is I have with that is this person told me that they bill their residents for this. So basically, if that's the policy, we're penalizing the residents. And I realize that shouldn't be our issue. That's the way it's set up. But if this is a type of thinking, then we're basically saying if you have another leak 6 months from now, we're not giving you any credit again. And that we're probably penalizing the residents that are there, or the renters, whatever you want to call them. So that number 6 kind of bothers me.
But that's the whole intent. I mean, and that's what we're trying to deal with, is that we can't just keep doing this. There has to be some, since we can't do the repairs ourselves because we don't own these lines, there has to be some way to force these property owners to do it, because as we discussed, there's a number of negatives to have water just leaking out. But, you know, besides the basics of it's not good to waste water that way, it can pose a hazard to our system, because technically with all these leaks, there is the risk of backflow occurring and contamination getting into our water lines that are supposed to be sealed and contained. And if that's the case, it can get back into our system and then cause us problems all over the city. So, I mean, we have to look at that. It's not just we don't want to keep dealing with a leak that comes up. It's the fact that, I mean, 1, we are wasting water. 2, we are having to deal with a situation that just needs to be fixed. That's the bottom line. But 3, it does also pose a potential risk to the rest of our water supply if we don't address known leaks. And we know we have a situation here with known leaks that occur regularly, which is clear indication that the whole system needs to be replaced. There's no way around it. So, you know, we had talked about, you know, some other options as far as saying, you know, you get a credit and you never get another one again. The issue you come up with is sometimes when people buy property, the seller doesn't do very good due diligence, the owner doesn't disclose maybe, and you get somebody that walks into a situation that they're not aware of. This way, at least we can sort of address that as it comes up. But, you know, honestly, if you have a leak, it needs to be fixed. If it's fixed, you shouldn't worry about it again. 5 years shouldn't be a big deal. You shouldn't have that problem again.
The problem is that this person sent me all the information on the situation over there, and I just sat there and read it, and I was totally stunned because he told me how many people he had in that area, and I calculated the calculations that I use for sizing on water piping and stuff, and I came up with a number of how many gallons they should be using over there. Then he sent me the information, and then I seen what the city is. What they are using, the numbers were almost exact. The problem is that just shocked the heck out of me, is that you're not talking about a toilet that's running or a faucet that's leaking. This is a situation where it's like leaving a 4-inch hydrant open every day. This is not a situation where their bill went up $1,200 on a $4,000 or $5,000 bill. The thing went up like 3 times. So the whole thing is just amazing to me how we got to this point. And we definitely, we're kind of solving this from the backside with the sewer end, but I think our main thing is our policy is going to have to be on the water end. And we're going to have to develop a policy. I mean, the one thing that people don't realize is when you look at things from a business standpoint, you got a water plant and a sewer plant. So if I calculate how many people I got and how much water I'm going to use, that's how I arrive at how much sewage is going to be there. So now, yeah, once in a while somebody's going to water the plants or something like that. That isn't going down there, but it's a small amount of water. But our sewage plant is still built on a certain percentage operating cost. We can't say, well, we had this leak, somebody left a hydrant on, so now we can lay the guy off for 2 weeks down there and we don't need him. It doesn't work that way. We still have a percentage that gets passed on. So it isn't as easy as just saying, okay, it all didn't go in there, we can just not charge you for that. And the whole seriousness of these leaks, It's just amazing to me, but I am concerned about that 5-year thing, but that's all I get to say on it. Thank you.
Any further discussion?
How do you determine how much, or how do you determine whether the water goes into the sewer or not?
That's usually what we can do is by determining the leak location. You know, if the leak location is, you know, in a line outside, it's not going in the system. If it's usually in a homeowner situation, if it's a toilet that's running constantly, unfortunately, it's going into the sewer system, so we don't give the credit. If it's in like the basement where it goes into like a sump hole, we can determine that. Then we know it's not going in. So we do our best to determine based on the leak location. You can't always tell for sure, but in most cases, you have a pretty good idea whether it's actually entering our system or not. You know, leak in shower head, you know where it's going. But usually you don't get this sort of scale with that.
Right.
Much more
I'm
minor.
just going on a personal note, so.
Yeah.
Well,
So,
the amazing thing is, I had one apartment complex a couple of years ago that had an average water bill of about $430. And just the flapper and the stool went bad, and there was a person in there that just thought that was normal, no big deal, so they left it go. And the bill was over $1,200. It went up 3 times. So, I mean, in this particular case that I was talking about, you're talking about a bill that went from $4,000 to $12,000, which is a large amount of money. And of course, in this situation, to me, there's a manager there too, where you can take an average, you're gonna use about 75 gallons per person per day, and you can count how many people you got. And that's roughly where you're gonna be. And if you go out and read your meter, all of a sudden the first of the month, and it's double, you should be alarmed. So it's kind of weird to me, this whole thing.
how do you justify a 1 month spike and then go back down to your normal usage? And 1 week of that month, you were on vacation.
Well, the kids left the hose on outside.
What, the water was shut off for that week that you were on vacation?
Well, then you've got a legitimate thing to come down here and
That's
talk
my
about,
that's
you
my
know?
personal deal, but.
And I want to point out that Afton and Tom are very open about working with this and helping people. And sometimes they don't get the credit, but that's what Afton and Tom and Aaron are here for. When you have them kind of things,
Yeah.
they'll address it and decide if it's fair or something happened or whatever.
Well, Leroy, I would just say that while we should certainly pass this tonight, we will be meeting with those folks next month at Public Works meeting, and we'll try and hash out some different ideas. I think the bottom line is they got to replace their system, period.
Well, I told Aaron, I realize we're supposed to have a short night, but the crazy part of it is, I put this system in 1968 when I worked for Cannon Plumbing. The funny thing is, the first day I was over there and put the saddles on to hook up to each trailer, I took and said to my boss, I said, how's this ever gonna last? So you wanna know what the heck I meant? He started telling me how good a system it was and everything, and I said, well, these saddles that go on here are clamped to PVC, and I said, there's nothing but a neoprene gasket between you and a leak. And he said, oh, they're a good deal and all this. So I've kind of always had in the back of my head, something like that should last 20 years. Well, it's been in there for 45 to pushing on 50 years. And when I did mention to him that I put the original system in there and told him about them saddles, he said, we've already had to replace 40 of them. So I can't say that they aren't making an effort to do something. But the other thing is, at that time, even on PVC pipe, we didn't use a primer. And we found out within the early 70s that all PVC pipe had to have a primer on it. So I know we got problems over there. And I told Aaron, they either we have to encourage them to work with us, and they have to address it and solve it, or otherwise, maybe we, as a city, need to take that system over and go in there and redo it and assess the people just like you do on a street project. But I agree, Bill, something has to be done. It can't go on like this.
Right, and that's why next month we're gonna sit
Right.
down and hash it out and see what we can come up with.
Any further discussion? Okay, at this time, the chair will take a motion to approve the update of the sewer credit policy.
So moved.
I'll second that.
I have a motion by Merle, second by Bill. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. That moves us on to item 8, or item 9, which will be reports. Brenda? Chief?
Sorry I didn't make it at the start of the meeting. Was assisting Officer Sather. We had some people that were collecting items from the donation boxes that have sort of popped up around town. And needless to say, they didn't leave with the clothing, but they left with some tickets. Just a reminder, school's back in session. The kids are, today was their first day. We'll see more kids riding their bikes and walking in the days to come. Football's underway. We had one game already. We've got one Friday. Just remind people when they're parking in the park and ride in the overflow lot, just to be careful crossing. We do not have the crosswalk in place yet down there, but it is coming. That's all I have.
Oh, no? Merle?
Nothing.
Nothing. Public Works, we met today. Couple of the highlights, the East Side project is tooling along on schedule. So that should be, I think the completion date is in October for everything. Just a update, last council meeting, we approved a pool study, and we are looking for a couple, 2 or 3 local citizens to be on that committee. We have someone from Public Works that has already volunteered to be on that. And trying to think, was there anything else, Merle, from the meeting this afternoon? Other than some of the items we discussed this evening already.
Yeah.
And that'll be taken care of next month, hopefully. But so everything's going good on the 52 project, and just motoring along.
Leroy?
How about the state of Minnesota? How are we doing there, Aaron? Are we getting filled in on a completion date or anything? What's the Highway 19 project?
Oh, well, it looks like it'll be at least another week or so now before they get completely finished. They messed, I don't know what happened, but they were digging it out again today. So they had some issues that they had to fix downtown around the intersection, so I'm not exactly sure, but it'll at least be another week or so before they're done.
Okay. That's it. Thank you.
Nothing.
Nothing? Congratulations to the Bombers on their first win this last week, and I wish them the best for this season, and all their teams, and hope for a successful school year, and everybody stay safe. And at this point, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.